Hi, it's Katrina. From carnivorous turtles the size of a car to giant humanoids, here are 10 awesome extinct animals that people don't really talk about. Number 10. Carbonemys. The Carbonemys was a turtle that grew to be the size of a small car. It lived around 60 million years ago during the Paleocene period. The first evidence of this species was found in a coal mine in Colombia in 2005, which is why it was given this name, which means coal turtle. They lived in South America during a time where many animals grew to gigantic sizes. So despite being 10 feet long and weighing more than 1,000 pounds, it would still have faced up against some mighty adversaries. A turtle this large, which was also cold-blooded, would have been very slow-moving, but it was equipped with something not seen in turtles today: extremely powerful jaws. They were so strong, in fact, that paleontologists are certain that they were carnivores. They would have been able to crush bones with ease, and maybe even preyed on crocodiles. Number 9. Arctotherium Angustidens. Standing at up to 11 feet tall and weighing up to 4,500 pounds, the Arctotherium Angustidens was, as far as we know, the largest species of bear to have ever lived. Living across South America, it was at least 1,000 pounds heavier than the largest bears that live today, and 9 times heavier than its closest relative that's still around, the spectacled bear. It was so big, in fact, that its humerus, the bone in the upper arm, was a similar size to those seen in elephants. The giant bear had a varied diet, similar to that of grizzly bears, which leaves somewhat of a mystery about why it died out about 800,000 years ago. Presumably, it would have been able to adapt to the changing availability of food where it lived, so it's thought that it was an increased competition for meat with other carnivores that led the species to rely more on vegetation and therefore evolved to be smaller as a result. Number 8. The Quagga. The quagga was a type of zebra from South Africa, but unlike those you see today, the quagga's stripes faded below the neck. It was once thought to be a completely different species, but recent analysis has shown it to be a subspecies of the plains zebra. Increased hunting by humans in the 1800s was responsible for the extinction and near extinction of a number of animals, and unfortunately for the quagga, they were all completely gone by the end of the century. They were particularly sought after for their meat and their hides, and farmers started taking over their grazing habitat for growing crops. The last wild quagga was killed in the 1870s, and the last one in captivity in an Amsterdam zoo died in 1883. That's not the end of the quagga story though, because scientists have been working to selectively breed zebras to bring back the traits of the quagga that are hidden within their genetic code. Whether this counts as the reintroduction of a true quagga, or simply a zebra that closely resembles one, is up for debate, but it could well be one of those extremely rare cases of an extinct animal being brought back to life. Do you think we should bring back the quagga? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure that you are subscribed before you leave. We'd love to have you around here. Number 7. Cygnus Falconeri. Swans are found in temperate environments around the world, and while they are certainly one of the largest birds you'll see on a river, they used to be a whole lot bigger. The Cygnus Falconeri lived around Malta and Sicily at some time between 800 and 150,000 years ago. Remains have shown them to have been about a third larger than the mute swans of today, which means their bill to tail length would have been up to 7 feet. This would have made them taller, but not necessarily heavier than the region's dwarf elephants, but it's thought to have been too large to be able to fly. Cygnus Falconeri died out before major human activity began in the area, and it's thought that they fell victim to mass changes in the environment or the arrival of new predators and competitors for the limited resources. Number 6. Steller sea cow. Sailing the oceans, you might expect to encounter various large creatures, but there was one that sailors would often come across. That was until, of course, they were hunted to extinction. Known as Steller sea cow, they were a relative of manatees and dugongs, just much, much bigger. While manatees may grow to up to 13 feet long, Steller sea cows could grow to up to 33 feet, with estimates of their weight ranging between 9,000 and 24,000 pounds. These giant beasts had no teeth and would rely on horny pads in their mouth to chew on kelp. The first sighting of one was in 1741 near Bering Island in the Bering Sea. A group of sailors had been marooned there, so they hunted the sea cow to survive and took notes on their behaviors and numbers, suggesting there were as many as 1,500 in the surrounding waters. They were slow-moving, so very easy to catch, and it was said that one animal could feed 33 sailors for a month. Their blubber tasted similar to almond oil, so it was very popular. Eventually, the sailors were able to return to the mainland, where they told stories of the massive sea cows. People returned in the droves, and within 27 years of their first discovery, they had all been killed. They are one of the few large mammals known to have been driven to extinction by humans in the modern age, but are unlikely to be the last. Number 5. Meganeura. The Meganeura was the largest of many species of giant dragonfly-looking creatures that lived about 300 million years ago. They were the biggest known flying insect to have ever lived, with a wingspan of up to 26 inches. The first fossil specimen was found in France in 1880, and since then many more have been found. While they resembled dragonflies, they are actually quite different and are classified as griffin flies. Their behavior is thought to have been similar to that of dragonflies, but their much larger size meant that they would have moved slower, and they had a number of extra appendages on their abdomens that aren't seen on insects today. Before you wish you could have seen one of these creatures in the wild, it's worth knowing that they were actually carnivorous. They had sharp teeth that would allow them to eat invertebrates and insects and be able to fend off any attackers. They also had an unusual vein structure within their wings that made them far more resilient than the flying insects of today. It's thought that the higher oxygen levels in the air back then were what enabled such large flying insects to thrive. Today, oxygen makes up about 21% of the air, but in the Carboniferous period, it was about 35%. The changing atmosphere would have made it impossible for them to absorb enough oxygen from the air, so appears to be the reason why they eventually died out. Number 4. Elasmotherium. While you might think unicorns are simply animals of legend, there was a creature that used to walk the lands across Eurasia that looked very similar to one. The Elasmotherium, also known as the giant rhinoceros or the Siberian unicorn, lived between 3 million years ago to 29,000 years ago. They were 6.5 feet tall, almost 15 feet long, and could weigh up to 4.5 US tons. The most striking feature, of course, was the large single horn that protruded from the front of their skulls. We know that they lived between the Don River in Russia and Kazakhstan, but it's believed that they traveled much further than that. It's generally thought they were hairy in a similar way to woolly mammoths and were herbivores. There are many theories about what their massive single horns were for, ranging from defense and attracting mates to sweeping snow or digging for water and food, maybe all of it. It's not entirely clear why the Elasmotherium went extinct, but images and cave paintings found in France are very similar to the structure of these animals, which means they could very well be the inspiration for beliefs about the unicorns we hear of today. Number 3. Ledumahadi Mafube. The Ledumahadi Mafube was a dinosaur that lived around South Africa about 200 million years ago. Its name means a giant thunderclap at dawn in Sesotho, the language that's spoken in the region where the remains of this giant were found, and it's clear to see why. It's thought to have been the largest animal to be alive at the time and was related to the Brontosaurus. It weighed as much as 26,000 pounds and was twice the size of an African elephant. The scientifically interesting thing about this dinosaur is that it appears to have been a transitional species. Its ancestors were smaller and moved around on 2 legs, while its descendants, such as the Brontosaurus, were increasingly larger and moved around on 4. The Ledumahadi is thought to have mainly walked on 4 legs, but was able to stand up on 2 to reach high up for food or to lift itself up to difficult-to-reach places. This dinosaur is also one of the reasons scientists believe the continents used to be part of one large landmass, Pangaea. It's very closely related to dinosaurs that lived at the same time in Argentina, which would only seem possible if there weren't such a large ocean separating the 2 countries. Number 2. Titanoboa. If you're not too keen on snakes, then this next one is probably going to be a problem for you. 58 million years ago, just a few million years after the fall of the dinosaurs, northern Colombia was a massive swampy jungle where it was much hotter and wetter than it is today. These conditions allowed giant creatures to thrive. Huge turtles, giant crocodiles, and the biggest of them all, the Titanoboa. This mega snake could grow up to 40 feet long and weighed as much as a ton. It looked a lot like a boa constrictor but behaved more like an anaconda, swimming through the dense waters of the swamp and feasting on whatever it wanted. At its thickest, the Titanoboa was as tall as a human's waist, and they would have had no problem with eating us if we had been around at the time. This was by far the largest snake that we know of to have ever lived on Earth, and I think we can all be thankful that they are much, much smaller these days. Number 1. Gigantopithecus. There have been a large number of different species of primates, with some estimates claiming there are as many as 448 on the Earth today, but there's a debate between researchers as to the true number. One thing that is certain, though, is that the largest primate species have long been extinct, and the biggest to have ever walked the earth is known as the Gigantopithecus blackeye. This distant ancestor of orangutans could grow to up to 10 feet tall and weighed up to 595 pounds. They lived almost exclusively in the forests in Southeast Asia, but beyond this, very little is known about them. Remains are few and far between, and they appear to have been around for about 1 million years before dying off about 100,000 years ago. Their large molar teeth, which look similar to those of panda bears, suggest that they fed on tough branches and plants, such as bamboo, along with fruit and leaves. Their reliance on this type of food is likely what caused their demise, because at the time they died out, the world was getting cooler and drier. Food supplies would have drastically dwindled, and these wonderful creatures would have had no way to find the sustenance they needed to survive. Thanks for watching! Which animal was your favorite? I'd love to hear in the comments below. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!